My daughter's kitchen smelled like wet dog and something vaguely Old Testament. I stood in the doorway, didn't move. Counter: 3 open mason jars with brown sludge, labels handwritten in green marker. Enzyme cleaner number 1, enzyme cleaner number 2, enzyme cleaner number 3. I picked up jar number 2, smelled it. Fermented orange peel, brown sugar. Week 3. Sink: dishes stacked in gray water, not soaking, marinating. Something floated on the surface, thin, iridescent, the way water looks when it's given up and gone home. I touched it, still warm. "Mom, don't touch that. That's the gray water reclamation system." I turned around. Kayla stood in the kitchen entrance, 28 years old, 112,000 Instagram followers, reusable tote bag over one shoulder that read, "The earth is not a trash can," in letters the color of a farmer's market. She was looking at me the way people look at someone who has just licked a museum exhibit. "There's a film on top." "That's biofilm. It's natural. It's part of the process." "It's E. coli." "That is absolutely not Kayla." I spent 11 years testing municipal water systems for Hamilton County. I know what E. coli looks like in standing warm water. It looks like that. Silence. She looked at the sink, then at me, then at the jar still in my hand. "Mom, this Sunday I'm filming my Detox Kitchen series, episode 7. I need you not to be here when I film. I need you not to touch the fermentation system. And I need you to understand that what you spent your career doing, the permits, the impact assessments, the Tide Pods, that was the problem. That was never the solution." She picked up jar number 1, held it the way lawyers hold evidence. "This is the solution." I looked at the jar. I looked at the sink. I looked at my daughter, her face bright and certain in that particular way that belongs to people who have never been wrong about anything that actually mattered. My name is Sandra Kowalski, licensed environmental engineer, state of Ohio, license number OE-04771. 31 years of practice. I testified before the EPA in 2006. I shut down 3 illegal dumping operations, one of which involved a subsidiary of a company whose name you would recognize. I once made a DuPont attorney cry during a deposition about PFAS discharge into the Great Miami River. He was 34 years old and had a very expensive haircut, and he cried. 2 years ago, I retired. 1 month ago, I moved in with my daughter temporarily after my condo flooded during what my insurance company was calling an unpredictable weather event, and what I was calling a badly installed roof drain. I set jar number 2 back on the counter, carefully, exactly where I'd found it. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll stay out of your way on Sunday." That night, I started taking notes. The notes started as a habit and became something else. I've kept field notebooks my whole career, spiral-bound, water-resistant, the kind with the orange cover that civil engineers buy in bulk because they're ugly enough that nobody steals them. I had 3 in my bag when I moved in. I told myself I was being organized. I told myself it was just how I thought. By the end of the first week, I had filled 41 pages. Here's what I knew about my daughter's house after 30 days. The gray water system in the kitchen sink was a 5-gallon mason jar setup installed without any drainage permit, which in Hamilton County was a Class B violation, which meant a fine of between $200 and $800, depending on the inspector's mood that morning. The fermentation jars on the counter were on their 3rd week, which was fine for kombucha and inadvisable for anything you intended to use on surfaces where food was prepared. The composting unit in the backyard was a 40-gallon tumbler, positioned approximately 9 feet from the property fence and 3 feet from the wooden border of Madison's sandbox, which was 11 feet closer to a child contact zone than the federal residential composting standard required. The hot water schedule was posted on the refrigerator in Kayla's handwriting, green marker, little leaf doodle in the corner. Hot water available Tuesday and Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. and 6 to 8 p.m. Resource conservation days, all other times. Thank you for your commitment to our family's values. I'd taken a photo of it on day 2. In my notes I wrote, posted without consultation, binding on all residents including guest. No exceptions listed for medical necessity, food safety, or basic human dignity. Then I crossed out the last 3 words because they weren't scientific. Then I wrote them back in because they were accurate. I'd been living in my daughter's guest room since the 14th of March, which was the day my upstairs neighbor, Randy Pulowski, ran a bath, fell asleep watching television, and introduced approximately 400 gallons of water to my ceiling, my walls, my kitchen cabinets, and my collection of 30 years of EPA field reports, which I had been meaning to digitize. Randy was very sorry. His insurance company was somewhat sorry. My insurance company was engaged in a philosophical discussion with his insurance company about the precise definition of the word negligence, which my attorney said could take between 4 and 8 months to resolve. Kayla had called the same afternoon. "Mom, just come stay with us. It's a big house. We have the guest room. Madison would love to see you." I said I didn't want to be any trouble. Kayla said it was no trouble at all. We were both partially lying, which is the foundation of most family arrangements. Tyler, her husband, had carried my bags in from the car without complaint. He was a quiet man who designed what he called organic living spaces, which meant interiors with a lot of linen and reclaimed wood and very little visible storage, so everything was always slightly lost. He had warm eyes and the specific, exhausted patience of a person who had been agreeing with someone for several years and wasn't sure how to stop. "It's really great you're here, Sandra," he said, setting my second bag down. "It's really great to be here, Tyler," I said. We both meant it. We were also both already slightly worried. On my 4th day, Madison found me in the kitchen at 6:45 in the morning. Madison was 4 years old and had her father's eyes and her mother's certainty and her own completely separate relationship with the concept of personal space. She came in wearing pajamas with dinosaurs on them, assessed me with the focused attention of someone conducting an intake interview, and climbed onto the stool across from me at the counter. "Grandma, did you know our laundry soap kills fish?" I looked up from my coffee. "Where did you hear that?" Mommy said, "It kills fish and turtles and probably dogs too, and birds, and maybe frogs." "Do you like frogs?" Madison considered this. "The green ones, not the brown ones. Brown ones are boring." "And do you like fish?" "Yes, especially fried ones." I looked at her. 4 years old, pajamas with dinosaurs, completely sincere about the fried fish. "Madison, does your skin itch?" She looked at her arms, scratched her left wrist, absently, the way you scratch something you've gotten used to. "A little. Mommy says it's detox." "What do you think it is?" She looked at me with the expression children have when an adult has finally asked a reasonable question. "I think it itches." I wrote that down later, not in the field notebook, in a different one. That evening I called Ruth. Ruth Henderson lived directly across the street from my condo in Westwood, in a house she'd bought with her husband Gerald in 1989 and had been refusing to leave ever since, despite 3 separate conversations with her children about downsizing, which she described as the most offensive word in the English language. Gerald had died 8 years ago. Ruth had been a paramedic and then a charge nurse on an emergency trauma unit for 22 years, which meant she had the specific psychological profile of someone who has seen everything and retains the right to be surprised by nothing and the right to be furious about everything. She was my best friend. She answered the phone on the second ring with her mouth full. Thursday. It's poker. You know it's poker. I know it's poker. I need to tell you something. Tell me. My daughter has mason jars full of fermented orange peel on her kitchen counter, and she's been using them to clean her dishes. Chewing stopped. Run that by me again? Fermented enzyme cleaner, homemade, week 3. The pH is off, and there's a biofilm on the sink water that I'm about 80% sure is Sandra Kowalski. You closed the Dayton polyurethane dump in 2012. I did. You testified in front of the EPA twice. And your daughter is explaining ecology to you. She's explaining ecology to me. Another pause, longer. I could hear Diane Purcell saying something in the background about whose deal it was. Sandy, that is either the funniest thing I've ever heard or the saddest. I genuinely cannot tell which. I'm still determining that myself. Come over. We have pizza. I can't. I want to see how this develops. Oh, God, you're already running an experiment, aren't you? I'm gathering baseline data. That's what I said. Ruth told Diane it was Diane's deal and came back to the phone. Sandy, is the kid okay? I thought about Madison's wrists, the way she'd scratched without noticing. Not yet, I said, working on it. Okay, you know what you're doing. I do. Thursday, bring the notebook. I said I would. I had 3 of them by then. The first real incident was the laundry. On day 8, I washed 3 blouses and a pair of slacks. I used the detergent I'd brought from home, a standard concentrated formula, phosphate-free, EPA Safer Choice certified, which I mention not as a defense, but as a fact. I finished, moved the laundry to the dryer, went to make lunch. Kayla found the empty pod packaging in the recycling bin 40 minutes later. Mom, Kayla, what is this? Laundry detergent packaging. It goes in recycling. The pod film is PVA, fully water soluble. It doesn't. I know what PVA is. That's not the point. The point is you use synthetic surfactants in my washing machine. My clothes smelled. They smelled naturally. They smelled like a gym locker. Kayla, I wore those blouses for 2 weeks. Because you refused to use the soap nuts, I used the soap nuts for a week and a half. My blouses still smelled like a gym locker, and additionally, they smelled like slightly fermented citrus, which is its own category of problem. Tyler appeared in the doorway, looked at both of us, and developed a sudden, urgent interest in something happening in the backyard. Kayla set the packaging on the counter with the controlled precision of someone who wanted to throw it. The soap nuts work. I've been using them for 2 years. At what water temperature? What? Your machine. What temperature do you wash at? Cold. It's more energy efficient. Sapindus extract activates its surfactant properties above 60 degrees Celsius at cold wash temperature, which is roughly 20 to 30 degrees. You're essentially rinsing your clothes in slightly brown water. That's not true. It's in the literature. I can find you 3 peer-reviewed sources. I actually have one in my bag if you want the... Mom, I don't want a peer-reviewed source. I want you to respect that this is my home and my choices and my... Kayla. What? Your machine, I said. Your choices. I take that seriously. I'll use the soap nuts. She looked at me, trying to find the argument in that sentence. There wasn't one. Really? Really? I smiled, went back to my lunch. That afternoon, I ordered a small portable water thermometer from Amazon with 2-day shipping and wrote, Day 8, laundry incident. Soak nut activation temps confirmed below threshold. Documenting going forward in the orange notebook. 3 days later, I showed Kayla the pink. It had appeared in the shower on day 9, faint, a thin line along the silicone seal at the base of the tile. By day 11, it was a stripe. By day 12, it had opinions about its future. Kayla, come look at this. She came, looked. That's mineral deposit from the water. It's pink. Some minerals are pink. Serratia marchescens. It's a gram-negative bacterium, opportunistic pathogen. It colonizes wet surfaces and forms a pink to orange biofilm. It's extremely common in bathrooms where chlorine-based cleaners aren't being used. Kayla looked at the stripe, looked at me. How do you know that's what it is? Because I've seen it before. But if you want confirmation, I took a sample on day 10 and sent it to a lab I've worked with for 20 years. You sent a sample from my shower to a lab? It was a Q-tip. I FedExed it Tuesday. You FedExed a Q-tip from my shower? Results in 3 to 5 business days. But I'm not waiting for confirmation to tell you. This cleans up with any standard chlorine-based bathroom cleaner. 1 application. Done. We don't use chlorine cleaners, Mom. That's the entire point. I know. That's why it's there. We use a white vinegar solution. White vinegar at household dilution concentrations does not kill Serratia marcescens. It inhibits some bacterial growth. It doesn't eliminate this one. I'm not saying this to be difficult. I'm saying it because Madison uses this shower. That landed. I watched it land. Madison's fine. Madison's wrists have been red for 2 weeks, and she scratches them in her sleep. I've seen her do it. Silence. Kayla looked at the pink stripe. Something moved across her face. Not anger this time. Something else. Something that looked like the moment before a person admits they might have been looking at something wrong. Then it closed. I'll look into it. She left. I photographed the stripe from 3 angles and added the photos to a folder on my phone labeled House Documentation, which I had been maintaining since day 4. Thursday came. I drove to Ruth's. Diane Purcell was already there, sitting at Ruth's kitchen table with a glass of wine and the focused expression she got when she was thinking about numbers. Carol Watts arrived 2 minutes after me, shook the rain off her coat, poured herself a glass without asking, because she never had to ask, and sat down. Ruth's poker table was a folding card table she'd had since 1994. It had a green felt surface that was worn smooth in the middle from 30 years of hands sliding across it, and Ruth kept it in the living room year-round because, as she put it, there was no rule that said dignity required a formal dining room. We played 3 hands. I lost 2 of them because I was thinking about something else, which Ruth noticed immediately. Sandy, you've looked at your phone 4 times in 20 minutes. I'm monitoring something. What are you monitoring? A fermentation timeline. Diane put her cards face down. Sandra Kowalski, are you running a field study on your daughter's house? I'm documenting conditions. That's what she said about the Dayton dump. The Dayton dump had 17 drums of unregistered chemical waste in a residential area. And what does Kayla's house have? I reached into my bag and took out the orange notebook, set it on the table. Ruth, Diane, and Carol looked at it. Then at me, then at each other. Ruth picked it up, opened it, read for approximately 45 seconds. Sandy, did you send a Q-tip to a lab? The results come Tuesday. There are photographs in here, dated and time-stamped. There's a hand-drawn diagram of the backyard with measurements. The composting unit is 3 feet from the sandbox. Federal standard is 9 feet minimum for residential child contact zones. Silence. Carol refilled her glass. Diane kept looking at the diagram. Ruth closed the notebook and set it down very carefully, the way you set down something that might be a weapon. Okay, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me straight. Always. Is this about Madison, or is this about the video? I looked at her. What video? Ruth picked up her phone, turned it toward me. The video was 47 seconds long. Kayla, on camera, soft voice, the specific gentle tone she used when she was performing compassion for 112,000 people. Sometimes, when someone from a previous generation comes to stay with you, they bring old habits into your space. And it's not their fault. It's the system they grew up in, the things they were taught. But our job, as people who've chosen a different path, is to hold our space with love, with patience, with boundaries. Then, for 3 seconds, a shot of a hand reaching toward a bottle of standard dish soap on the counter. My hand. 214,000 views. Comments turned off. I watched it twice. Sandy. It's about Madison, I said. It was always about Madison. I picked up my cards. We played another hand. I won that one. On the drive home, I stopped in a parking lot and sat for 10 minutes, looking at the steering wheel. Then I called Frank Okafor, who had worked in the Ohio EPA's Residential Compliance Division for 28 years and was now retired and living in Dayton and always answered the phone. Frank, it's Sandra Kowalski. Sandy, God, it's been a year. How's the condo? Flooded. I'm staying with my daughter. Frank, I have a few questions, hypothetically. Sandy, you've never asked a hypothetical question in your life. What's going on? Residential composting regulations. Current Ohio standard for distance from child contact zones? 9 feet minimum. Why? Homemade fermented enzyme cleaners stored in open mason jars in kitchen. Any relevant code? If it's inside a residence, it's tricky. But if the pH drops below 4 or above 10, you're technically in food safety violation territory for shared living spaces. You'd need a reading. I have readings. What about graywater reclamation systems installed without permit? A pause. Sandy, what are you building? A file, I said. Is Brandon Cole still in your district? He's in my daughter's district, yes. You send him a formal inquiry. It triggers an inspection. You know that. I know. You sure you want to do that? That's your kid. I thought about Madison scratching her wrists, about the pink stripe, about 47 seconds of my hand reaching for dish soap broadcast to 214,000 people as evidence of generational failure. That's why I'm doing it right, I said. The contract arrived on a Wednesday. I know it was Wednesday because it was a resource conservation day, which meant no hot water, which meant I was drinking my coffee cold and reconsidering several life choices when Kayla came down the stairs at 8:15, moving the way people move when they're trying not to visibly vibrate with excitement. "Mom, I have news." Tyler looked up from his breakfast. I looked up from my cold coffee. "Pure Leaf Organics reached out," Kayla said. "They want to do a sponsored series, 7 episodes, filmed in this house." "That's nice," Tyler said. "It's not nice. It's incredible, Tyler. They're offering $200,000. $200 for a week of content. The Pure Week, 7 days, the whole family, completely synthetic free, no exceptions. Real life, real home, real people. They want it authentic." "How authentic?" "All the way. They want cameras in the kitchen, the bathroom, the backyard. They want to show people what it actually looks like to commit fully. No cheating." She looked at me when she said no cheating. I looked back at her with the expression I used to use in depositions when opposing counsel said something I found professionally interesting. "Mom, you'd be part of it, if you're comfortable. It could be a really powerful moment, showing that even someone from a different generation can learn to adapt." "Of course," I said, "whatever I can do to help." Tyler looked at me. His eyes said something his mouth wasn't going to. "The rep from Pure Leaf is coming Sunday to go over logistics. This is going to be incredible." She went upstairs. Tyler and I sat at the table. He ate a bite of toast. "Sandra, Tyler, you said yes very fast." She asked a yes or no question. She asked a yes or no question that most people would have needed to think about. I refilled my cold coffee, didn't answer. Tyler put his toast down. "I saw the notebook, the orange one, last week. I wasn't snooping. It was on the kitchen table and it was open. I only read a page." "Which page?" "The one with the diagram of the backyard." I looked at him. He looked at me. "The composting unit is 3 feet from the sandbox," he said. "Yes." "The standard is 9. "Yes." "Kayla doesn't know that." "No." "Madison's wrists." Confirmed contact dermatitis. I took her to Dr. Reeves on Monday while Kayla was at her brand meeting. He gave me a referral to a dermatologist. I have the paperwork. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. He picked up his toast, looked at it, put it back down. "Why didn't you just tell her? About the sandbox, about Madison?" "I did tell her. About Madison, about the shower. She said she'd look into it." "And?" "The shower still has Serratia marcescens. Madison's wrists are the same. The composting unit hasn't moved." He was quiet again. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to participate in the Pure Week," I said, "authentically." Tyler looked at me for a long moment with the expression of a man watching weather develop on a horizon and deciding whether to go inside. "Okay, I'm going to need you to know that I support you, whatever that means. It means you fix the gray water drain when I tell you there's a corrosion issue." "I can do that." "And you keep Madison out of the sandbox starting Monday." "Done." We finished breakfast. Before I left the kitchen, I noticed, tucked in the back of the cabinet under the sink behind the organic wood polish and the beeswax conditioner and 4 varieties of essential oil, a box of standard Lipton tea bags. The box was almost empty. It had been opened and resealed with a small piece of tape. I left it where it was. I didn't say anything. Some things a person needs to keep. The weekend before the Pure Week, I drove Madison to Dr. Reeves. Kayla was at a logistics call with the Pure Leaf team. Tyler told her we were going to the park. Madison wore her coat with the hood shaped like a frog. In the waiting room, she touched every magazine on the side table and organized them by color. Dr. Reeves was 61 years old and had the unhurried manner of someone who had been telling parents difficult things for a long time and had learned that speed didn't help. He looked at Madison's wrists and forearms, made notes, asked me 3 questions. Then he wrote a referral to a pediatric dermatologist and handed it to me. Contact dermatitis. Almost certainly a response to a topical irritant. Could be laundry, could be a cleaning product, could be something she's been handling. The dermatologist will do a patch test. Until then, keep whatever you're currently using on her skin and clothes as consistent as possible so we have a clean baseline. And if the irritant is in the home environment, remove it or remove her from it. Madison was on the floor building a structure out of the waiting room blocks. She had created something that looked like a very confident mistake. "Grandma, this is a house." "What kind of house?" "A clean one." I looked at her, then at the referral in my hand. "Grandma's call on this?" "For now," I said. He nodded, didn't ask more questions. Good doctor. On the way home, Madison asked for ice cream, and I said yes, and we got 2 scoops each at the place on Montgomery Road that's been there since 1987 and uses real cream and absolutely no apologies. "Grandma, is ice cream chemicals?" "Everything is chemicals, Maddie." "Even me?" "Especially you. You're the most interesting chemicals I know." She considered this for a while, ate her ice cream, then, "Grandma, are you going to fix our house?" I looked at her. Chocolate ice cream on her chin, dinosaur rain boots, wrists red at the edges of her cuffs. "I'm going to try," I said. "Okay, don't tell Mommy." "Why?" "Because Mommy gets the face." "What face?" Madison demonstrated the face. It was impressively accurate. "I won't tell Mommy," I said.